So, we begin the session by introducing an amendment to the draft agreement on areas beyond national jurisdiction, submitted by the reformed Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. And first, a note by the President. Thank you, Director General. Thank you to the Council. It has come to the attention of the inhabitants of the Indian Ocean that the draft agreement on areas beyond national jurisdiction has not been developed in the interests of maintaining a thriving community of marine fauna and flora, and that the provisions are based on anthropocentric legal principles that do not accord with our mission. We thus note that the provisions therein cannot facilitate the agreement's general objective to ensure the long-term conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. To offer an alternative foundation for the agreement, the reformed Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, formed from elected representatives of the tuna population on the behalf of the Indian Ocean Multi-Species Cooperative, offer our vision. We first present our new logo, inspired by the United Nations logo, which frames our home and workplace, the Indian Ocean, with healthy swimming tuna determined to represent our vision of a thriving community. Our new motto, Oculi ad veritatem aperti, of course meaning eyes open to the truth, underlines our mission to see clearly the changes that must be made above and below water in areas within biological jurisdiction. To this end, we have formulated the following provisions. And we now move on to the preamble. The Indian Ocean Multi-Species Cooperative, as communicated via the elected representatives of the reformed Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, as species parties to this agreement, recognizing the intrinsic rights and value of all marine species to exist, to persist, to reproduce, and to live in good health, regardless of potential monetary value, nutritional content, deliciousness, relatability, charisma levels, or cuteness. Acknowledging the many ways of life, including photo, chemo, litho, and heterotrophy, that is, the consumption of light, chemicals, metals, and flesh, by predators, apex or otherwise, parasites, scavengers, bottom, suspension, and filter feeders, pelagic swimmers, migrators and floaters, and benthic dwellers on or within sediment. Acknowledging the variety and heterogeneity of habitats and substrate types, particularly at ridges, trenches, seamounts, atoll islands, coral reefs, abyssal plains, continental shelves, slopes, breaks and rises. Knowing the fundamental requirements for life underwater in a world vulnerable to human actions, namely a livable temperature and pH range, a water column and seabed free of chemicals and debris that may cause harm through ingestion or entanglement, and an environment free of acoustic disturbance. Foregrounding the connectedness in every direction, on every scale, of each and every organism with each and every other, laterally across and vertically through the water column, into and within the seabed, from and to the atmosphere and the interdependencies that result. Appreciating the reliance of non-marine species, namely humans, upon marine resources for sustenance, infrastructure, employment, recreation and well-being, and the need for new and balanced ocean-human partnerships in the Indian Ocean, we have agreed as follows. And we now move on to the general provisions of the amendment. First, the use of terms. Areas within biological jurisdiction, formerly known as areas beyond national jurisdiction, that is, the high seas and the area, mean areas now external to human jurisdiction and under the legal control of the biological community. Multi-species marine community means all and any fauna and flora inhabiting the marine environment, including the seabed, water column, air-water interface, and intertidal zone. Thriving means the possibility to enact a way of life without fear of harm, to breed and reproduce as necessary to maintain populations, to raise healthy offspring, to fulfill a reasonable lifespan, and to access food of a reasonable quantity and quality. Harmful human activities means any activities that pose risk to or limit the ability of marine inhabitants to thrive, which may involve, but are not limited to, intrusive access, interference and extraction. The general objective of this amendment is to guarantee a thriving multi-species marine community into the foreseeable future by limiting harmful human activities in areas within biological jurisdiction. Implementation of these provisions will be aided by monitoring and enforcement measures carried out by the relevant bodies, including multi-species cooperatives, which are conferred the ability to bring legal action on behalf of the biological community. Then the application. This amendment applies to areas within biological jurisdiction. Contrary to the existing draft agreement, this amendment shall now apply to warships. Contrary to the existing draft agreement, this amendment shall prejudice the rights, jurisdiction and duties of states under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, when necessary, to attain and maintain a thriving multi-species ecosystem. This amendment shall be interpreted and applied in a manner that prioritizes the common heritage of oceankind, so that any exploration or exploitation is conducted with consideration of the benefit of the marine biosphere as a whole. This amendment rejects the unilateral approach of the common heritage of mankind principle. Then the general principles and approaches. Species parties will be guided by the following. A revised vision of an ecosystem as a plural, hypersensitive, hungry multitude that dives, glides, wriggles and burrows, rather than a fixed system of inputs and outputs. A revised vision of ecosystem integrity that incorporates dignity and the honouring of the environment, as opposed to its capacity or strength to tolerate changing conditions imposed by humans. A revised vision of ecosystem resilience that foregrounds the innate ability of ecosystems to adapt to and survive sudden and prolonged natural disturbances and events, with the aim to sustain maximum resilience rather than the lowest level required to ensure the availability of resources. And finally, international cooperation. Species parties shall cooperate under this agreement to attain and maintain thriving multi-species communities around the world's seas and oceans, including through regional and sub-regional agreements that approach governance from a graded land-to-sea perspective. Species parties shall promote international cooperation in marine scientific research conducted consistent with the objectives of this agreement. This includes respectful modes of tagging, remote observation and sample collection. We offer this amendment for consideration at the next session of the Intergovernmental Conference and anticipate comments from delegates. Thank you.